As a therapist, I'm often asked why depression and anxiety are so common among children and adolescents.
Oh, well, that's a bit of a rough subject, more than likely with no easy answers, especially when it comes to resolving these issues, helping kids come to terms, etc. Here's hoping that you aren't going to completely undermine basically everything by saying something incredibly silly and kind of reductive about it. That wouldn't help anyone now, would it?
One explanation, almost surely the most neglected, is declining interest in God and religion.
Ugh. Who would have thought that Prager uses solution to every fucking problem is to put more God in it, aka put more made up bullshit into it? No thanks. Why don't we try actually fixing any potential problems with things that, I don't know, actually exist? I personally would recommend whiskey, but this is about kids, and you know how I feel about children and whiskey. It's mine, piss off you little shits and get your own. And then when they do get their own, I take it too, because they really shouldn't be drinking it at all. And, double whiskey.
I see the consequences of this in my practice almost every day.
Do you? Or do you have a bias that tells you, they am not doing a God, they must be the bad feelings? But then you have a depressed kid from a religious background, well, it must be literally anything else. I'm not saying that this is definitely the true fact, but come on, it's definitely the true fact. Fight me, lady bro.
And this is not merely my personal observation.
Oh, do you have something to back it up? A bunch of studies over multiple generations, perhaps? That would be interesting, although it still wouldn't mean that God is real and that doing a religion is ultimately a good idea, but hey, it would be something.
A 2018 Harvard study involving 5,000 people examined how being raised in a family with religious beliefs affects the mental health of children.
A study. I mean, even with a decent sample size, that's still a study. And let's assume that all of its conclusions are correct. Well, you know what? Let's let her tell us what the conclusions are, and we'll go from there, because that will be more interesting that way.
The study found that kids who attended a religious service at least once per week scored higher on psychological well-being measurements and had lower risks of mental illness.
Okay, so presuming that that is a 100% true factual fact, all that says to me is that the one thing that even I, as much of a sexy prick as I am, have admitted can be beneficial is that of a sense of community, etc. But why does that have to be something that is acquired at, the expense of the truth? Surely there are lots of ways we could be achieving that, and dare I say that the kids outside of churchy boos who aren't struggling might be getting it that other way, whilst also not being lied to. God forbid. Literally.
Weekly attendance was also associated with higher rates of volunteerism.
Going into a place that constantly berates you to volunteer makes you volunteer more? Shocking. Although bear in mind that these won't just be volunteering at completely random things, but stuff directly involved with the church. Making the church look better to outsiders and reinforcing your investment in said church. And of course, recruiting the people you help into the church as well. I mean, it's well known that cults do a lot of volunteer work too. Doesn't actually make it a good thing in the end, does it?
Lower probabilities of both drug use and early sexual initiation.
Lower chances of being cool kids that everyone's jealous of, more like. I kid, but isn't there that whole thing about the most religious states in the US, at least, also having the highest rates of teen pregnancy? Now, I'm not suggesting that that means that the kids in these studies might be lying about having sex. It's not like it would literally have to be self-reported or anything like that. But it certainly would be more beneficial to them to say, no, of course I'm not having sex, to avoid the stigma that would be incredibly high in their social group. Let me reiterate, that's not what I'm saying. But even if this was entirely on the up and up, all that says is that church kids, whilst having sex less than others, are getting pregnant at an alarming rate. That is some piss poor sex education. Also, do you know what probably leads to some pretty poor mental health? The kind of shit that some religious communities and families often pull in regards to pregnant teens? Honestly, I wouldn't wish that shit on anyone, least of all a kid. Christ.
And a sense of purpose.
Well, I don't know about anyone else, but my kids have a fantastic sense of purpose. They have made it their life's mission to have the world's messiest bedroom and to constantly ask me the same question that I have already answered multiple times over and over and over again until my eyes melt out. And I am pretty damn sure they are going to reach their goals with aplomb.
Yet despite all the evidence that religious involvement leads to positive behaviors, Gallup reports that the U.S. has seen a 20% decrease in attendance at formal religious services in the past 20 years.
Right, let's say for 100% certain it's the belief in God boys that makes kids do the behave, or at least the behave how you want them to, but maybe we'll get to that. Well, most people just don't do things they don't believe to be true, just because of some perceived benefit. And again, the evidence you are citing is literally one freaking study. In fact, you're not even citing the study, you're citing an article about the study. If you want to make this bold a claim, you would think you might have a little bit more to go on, but no. In fact, you cite it flipping twice, which is a little bit hilarious.
In 2018, the American Family Survey revealed that nearly half of adults under 30 do not identify with any religion.
Good. I've got nothing smarmy or quote-unquote smart to say about that. I am glad to hear that not only are they not identifying with it, they are actually in a position to say it somewhere out loud. Who knows how many more it would be if people didn't have any social pressures like family or peer groups making them feel like they can't really say it anywhere. And it's not even that I necessarily want to end religion or anything like that. I mean, what would I make fun of? I'm just happy that people can be a lot more honest about it these days. It's a good thing, all in all. Next, we need to start getting people more comfortable with admitting that Sir Sick is their favourite YouTuber. I know it's everyone on the planet, but they sure are keeping it to themselves. They need to get over it and admit the truth.
From a purely psychological point of view, this is not a good trend.
Says you, the person who definitely doesn't have an invested interest in the church or nothing like that. And we know that for sure because this is on Prager, who are as equally uninvested in spreading religious propaganda under the guise of educational videos. No!
Nihilism, the belief in nothing, is a rich fertilizer for anxiety and depression.
Belief in nothing. That doesn't sound quite right. What dictionary definition are you using on nihilism? The big book of whatever the hell I want things to mean, I bet. I mean, if you believe in nihilism, then you have to believe in something because you believe in nihilism. But that's something, but actually it's more of a philosophical position anyway. It's a lot more complicated than the belief in nothing. But then again, explaining philosophies outside you guys' wheelhouse might have people actually know something about them. And that's the last thing you want to happen.
In contrast, the belief in God, a guardian figure who loves us, is an invaluable source of support and comfort.
Well, that's a bit of a leap, because, get this right, as the insane person that I am, I actually read the study and it doesn't even remotely say anything like that. It talks about religious practices and influences from other people in that group. So that means that the acts that people do when they have certain spiritual beliefs like meditation or prayer, and the fact that they will have people around them discouraging certain types of behaviour, will have an effect on people. No duh. But that, as I have said, has nothing to do with the belief in God, necessarily. And there's no reason you couldn't do something like that in a different environment without the need to, and get this, lie to your goddamn kids. Win-win.
I am often asked by parents, how do I talk to my child about death if I don't believe in God or heaven?
Oh, that is a tough one. Yeah. Right, I think I've got it. You talk to them like they're people, and they will probably understand to a certain degree. Bada bing, bada boom, simples. Why does this have to be so complicated? Because it doesn't need to be. Kids are pretty savvy when you're straight with them. It's when you start making shit up that things get complicated. Oh no, I just realised what you're going to say next.
My answer is always the same. Fake it.
Oh, you are just the flagging worst. If I had you as a psycho dealy bob, I would definitely be reporting your ass for being the big dumb. Seriously. Just lie to your kids. Just make shit up that is completely against the things that you believe. That won't backfire on you massively when they grow up and find out that you were lying to them just because you didn't trust them enough to tell them the truth. Brilliant.
There are many things you don't tell your children the full truth about.
Are there? For the life of me, I can't actually think of one. I mean, I do lie to my kids, but that is purely for entertainment purposes, and they don't believe a word of it because they aren't stupid. Maybe I should try smaller ones, but at this point, I'm just going to keep telling them that I can beat up the sun till they either believe me or they put me in a home, whichever comes first.
For instance, if your children hear about a tragedy that has occurred in your community.
I know where this is going. You should probably tell them not to laugh about all the dead humans, no matter how hilariously tragic it is. Well, I disagree. I mean, in all seriousness, Gallows humour is actually an excellent way to deal with terrible events, and I can't frickin' stand those people who just don't get that, who think people who can laugh in the face of unrelenting horror are bad people. No, you're a bad person because you're being a dick. Let people cope and leave them the hell alone.
You tell them that it will never happen to them.
Oh my God, no! You are the worst advicey person I have ever heard. What is wrong with you? You talk to them about it, honestly, and you teach them how they can avoid it or survive such an incident. Jesus Christ, this ignorance is bliss shit is unbelievably stupid. And the thing is, sure, maybe my honesty with my kids will leave them a little bit more anxious than they could be if I told them the world was a big huggy box that will never hurt them, and when they die, they'll get a big huggy mansion in the sky and get to high-five Cloud Beardman every day. But then in the long run, I wouldn't be preparing them for the realities of the world. And if and when anxiety does hit, they'll be significantly less able to deal with it because of the combo of me being a lying shithead and the fact that life sucks. So they won't have the coping mechanisms to actually deal with it effectively. Good job me, eh?
We don't have a crystal ball and cannot know that bad things will not happen to our children. Yet we reassure them with a hopeful narrative.
What are you, high? Bad things will definitely happen to your children. Bad things happen. It's like a fundamental fact of the universe. The way you help your kids deal with that is not to tell them, oh, that will never ever happen to you. It is like I keep saying, but for some reason, it's like you're not even listening. But you prepare them and let them know that if anything does go awry, you'll be there for them. It's the best you can do. And if you do it right, they'll be fine, probably. And if they aren't, well, that's life. If they get some super aggressive deadly form of cancer, there's nothing anyone can do. Whether they be the parents or some kind of church group, the cancer ain't going nowhere. Sad but true.
The same applies to believing in God and heaven. Even if you believe that when your life ends, your bones turn to dust and you are gone for eternity.
And lightning strikes around your grave because you're a bad, awful atheist and God hates you. Like, come on, I don't think I've ever seen a visual poisoning the well before, but there it is. Just remind atheists that their deaths are meaningless and lead to darkness etc. Well, joke's on you. That won't happen to me because I'm getting fired into the sun. I'm hoping that my sheer uncontrollable handsome will snuff it out. That way when I die, I'll have proved my kids wrong. Nothing more important when you're a parent. That's a joke, dumbass, but it would make the world a better place. The sun sucks and hot days suck because of it. Hashtag ban the sun.
Such beliefs don't help children. They only scare them and create anxiety over death and dying.
Oh, screw you, you fear-mongering bumblefluck. For starters, no one says it like that. That's just you being an asshole in order to make people feel bad. And secondly, do you know what I've been doing with all of your claims? I've been asking my kids about them. And the thing is, these are actually concepts we haven't discussed at length, apart from the death one. And not to be the "my 8-year-old said" meme, but I asked them if they would prefer to know the truth or a comfortable lie. And they said the truth even though it might make them a bit sad. Even looked at me like I was an idiot. I told you they were smart.
Belief in a benevolent God and a heaven does help children with their fear.
Because of course, as we all know, there have been no children ever terrified of disappointing God, or, me forbid, doing something bad enough that gets you into some kind of bad place, whatever that might be. Nope, children are never ever screwed up by religious beliefs. Just ask all the former Christians who were screwed up by things they were taught to believe. Wait a second, that's the opposite of what you said.
In our current age of broken families, distracted parents, school violence, and nightmarish global warming predictions, imagination plays a big part in children's ability to cope.
Well, thank you so much for admitting that God is imaginary. That's great, but You know atheist kids still have imaginations, right? They still make stuff up. They still hold beliefs that don't jive with reality because, well, that's what kids are like. That isn't something exclusive to theist kids. Also, I was sure you were gonna just out and out blame atheism for that lot, and somehow deep down, I kinda think you do.
It is far better for kids to use their imagination constructing something positive, such as a God who cares about us, than the dark nihilistic idea that there's no creator and protector and no purpose to our existence.
Just because someone doesn't believe in God doesn't automatically make them a nihilist, you dumb scratching post. And even nihilism itself has variants, including, but not limited to, optimistic nihilism. That is to say, nothing really has inherent meaning, but that's okay, you can make your own meaning. And life can be good. It's something that I try to ascribe to, and why I would never tell my kids their lives have no meaning, because you know what? I don't believe that. Their lives do have meaning. And you know what else? I think you're kind of an asshole for suggesting I or anyone like me might think otherwise.
I am also frequently asked how parents can instill gratitude and empathy in their children.
Yeah, I'm not sure that you would even know how to do that. Completely unconvinced. In fact, you know what? I've given it some thought, and maybe these kids would be less anxious if they or their parents stopped coming to see a dumbass like you. Just an idea.
Wait, before you go, I have something super important to tell you. It's life or death. It will change everything forever. Nope, wait, it's gone. Oh well, probably wasn't important. But while I have you, don't forget to comment, subscribe and notify. And if you want more of my smexy voice, check out Mrs. Six's channel Spoonstaff Stories, where I narrate and voice all the videos, and she does the work. And if you want to support the channel, check out the merch store for cool t-shirts, or check out Patreon, memberships and PayPal to support directly. Finally, follow me on the medias of social to get completely pointless guff and to keep up on the latest releases. Oh, I just remembered what I was going to tell you. Whatever you do, don't touch the